who's next? Yeah, who's next? Who'll ride a greyhound all night long, stand in line for hours just to sing.
Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Man, if you get that deal today, you're going to need leverage to make something happen. If you want to get the manager, if you want to get the booking agent, if you want to get the cool members to join your band, you're going to need leverage. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B. My good buddy put those anacronymic words together. I just made that up. Look at George Bush saying, it's creating C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. He also helps songwriters turn pro by teaching the art, craft, and the business of songwriting. And you can find Brent at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
Hey, and I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. I didn't even mess up the new part. I messed up the old part. They help you find your sound, and they help you grow your audience so you can become the artist that everybody loves, and so you can get paid. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S, and we all know why there's no S, because there is only one Johnny D.
What's happening, brother?
Oh, man, we're just chilling out, just getting the vibes from down south.
You just chilling out, getting a tan from all the sunlight you getting from that top 10 single Armadillo on the Texas charts?
There we go.
Top 10? What's happening, top 10?
No, well, actually, when I said, what are you doing? I'm just feeling the vibes from down south. I thought, we better follow up on that because that sounds bad just by itself. I'm happy on the happy pop of a top 10 on the Texas regional radio chart. So, I'm learning kind of about this whole Texas deal because, I'm an Archie. I love Texas music scene, all that stuff, but just learning about it. And so, we got an artist down there, a guy named Junior Gordon, that cut a song of mine, Armadillo, that I wrote with Brandon and Kenny years ago. And that should be a whole show on how that happened. But he cut it. It's top 10. And so apparently the Texas regional radio, they don't have their own stations. It's mixed in with the regular, country stations down there. Mm-hmm. But they kind of pull out who's getting spins that are Texas artists. Yeah. So it's mixed in with, your Tim McGraw and your Keith Urbans and stuff. But it's but they pull it out for their own charts. So we just hit top 10. And it's somewhere there right now, probably when this airs. Hopefully it's still in there by the time this airs.
Oh, man, I think it's going up. I think it's going to go up. And I'll tell you what, for those of you who aren't aware, Texas is its own planet when it comes to music. There are artists that if you don't live in Texas, you may not be aware of, you may have never heard of, who are literally making very comfortable seven-figure livings touring around Texas because it's as big as most countries, the state in and of itself. So that's a pretty big deal, man. Congratulations on that,
Well,
brother.
thank you. And it's cool, looking at it as a songwriter, looking for opportunities for songs. This song's a few years old. Always loved it, but it's kind of how the market shifts. It's pretty country, and it fits right in there now. It's
yeah.
What else do I have that may fit Texas that, isn't the Florida Georgia Line flavor right now, but it's still a really good song, relevant, but just relevant to a different flavor audience. So it's I like this.
Yeah.
I may have some more songs for you, Junior Gordon. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And he's certainly thrilled. I mean, we shouted you out in the Daredevil, across the Daredevil social media, and he answered every one of those. That dude's all over his social media, which is awesome.
Yeah, he is interactive, which is good. And this is his second top 10 single. The last one went number 3, and so this one just hit top 10 even faster than the last one did. So it has good heat.
So you got to beat number 3.
He's, I hope so. But we'll see. But he's heading in the right direction, so I'm glad to be part of somebody's climb.
There you go. All right. Well, real quick, another thing that I want to implement here, so we're going to do something new in future episodes coming up here. we're going to enter. I'm going to invite everybody to, if you would like to, a social tune-up. I'm going to call it the social tune-up section of the show. So if you want to email me at info@daredevilproduction.com, and again, production is singular, info@daredevilproduction.com, and send over all the links to your social media, I'll take a look at one of those, one artist every single episode and of mine, and then we'll just go through and if you're okay with us talking about it on the air, we'll just kind of go through and I'll give you some different pointers that I think that would help the grow the accounts and give you some advice I would give one of my artists. So we'll see if that people like that. If it takes off, I'll know by the emails. If not, we don't have to do it. But I want to try something new and see if we can't find another way to help you guys win. We want you to win. So
excellent. I like that.
With that, here's the title for today's episode. Are you really sure you want that record deal? Really? Are you sure?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like I think so.
That's what everybody wants, that record deal, right?
It appears so.
But before we get into that,
yes,
we've got a 5-star review.
Oh, that's right. Let me pull up my old iTunes here.
Hey, by the way, thanks for sharing this stuff, guys. We continue to break records. This month is like blowing up again. If you like it, share it. It'll make you cool, right? We'll make you famous. We're going to read your rating and review. If you take a second to do that, we'll read it on the air. We're appreciative of everything. It means we're helping people out. And when you leave a rating and review, it actually makes us more legit for the new people that are coming in. So you're helping to spread the love, man. If this is helping you, and especially in this day and age where every time I turn on the TV there's some new terrorist attack or some kind of violence, man, let's just spread some love with the music around. Mm-hmm. Let's spread some love with some good information, okay?
Amen to that. Do something to help somebody.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is a tasty 5-star review from, and I love this name, Christina Bandina.
Awesome.
Rosanna Dana. Christina Bandina. A name so fine it rhymes. So I'm a fan already, but this says all podcast, ! Says I highly, highly recommend Brent and Johnny's podcast. All of them. Truly the most honest, down to earth, and real information you can find about the music business. Not only is their information practical, it's inspirational. Hard to find that combination anywhere. Both share freely their experiences and also give us much needed nudges in the right direction. Thank you both, Brent and Johnny. So glad I found you. Wait, is that a song? Yes. Christina Bandina. I think it might be. You should go write it. All right. Love you guys. Well, thank you. We love you too, Christina Bandina.
Thank you, Christina Bandina, Rosanna Dana.
I know. Awesome. Cool.
That's awesome. All right, so let's get down to business here.
Yes.
This is the dream, right? Like, to get the record deal. That is, I mean, if you, like with all the artists that you've worked with, what does it mean to, like, if you had to speak for other artists, Brent, what does that mean when you get that record deal? What is that?
Validation. That you can tell people back home you made it. That they maybe stop thinking you're so crazy. That the future opens up. You think, I can be a big star. All this hard work is paid off. I sign on the dotted line, or they love me enough to offer it. And it's the validation. It's the hope. It's the brass ring. That's what all their heroes have and have had. It's the record deal. That's what I'm thinking.
That's right. So it means that you're on that path too, right? It means you're on the path and you're on your way. And I think the biggest word that came out of your mouth is probably resonates the most, and all that was extremely true, was validation. Like, that finally means that somebody else thinks that my art has value, right?
Right, and that's one of the biggest words that ever comes out of my mouth, because it has like 4 syllables. And usually I try to keep it like 3 and under.
Which is big for you Arky.
Validation.
So listen,
when they park your car for you, right? I get a record deal, they're going to park my car for me. I get validated.
But I think listen, we've spoken this phrase before, but getting a record deal can be a blessing or it can be a curse. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about a little bit about the history of record deals so that we understand what it is that we're wanting, right? Because you got to be careful what you ask God for. Yes. And this statement has been true since the first record label was created, the statement that getting a record deal can be a blessing or a curse. And I would hope by this time that most of you be aware that during the glory days of the record industry, 90% of the artists that had record deals, when everything was working right, 90% of them lost money. 90% of them failed to make a living doing what they love to do, which means that only 10% of the artists that had deals made it and are in our awareness, and they made so much money that they covered all the losses from the other 90%.
I'm not sure if that's encouraging or not.
Well, it's the reality, though. And I want to talk about why that is, because I want everybody to really, really understand the game here, okay? I mean, back in the day, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Atlantic Records, Warner Brothers Records, Sony, the big labels, they would have around 500 artists each on those labels. That means 450 of them lost money.
Crazy.
So how's that possible?
There are towns smaller than that.
I know. How does any business survive? Not only survive, but thrive when 90% of the products that they pay to develop, manufacture, and distribute were money losers?
Oh, that other 10% better kill it.
Right? I mean, can you imagine like if 9 out of 10 McDonald's hamburgers were returned, or if 9 out of 10 brand new iPhones were broken? And they would be broke, right? So
or 9 out of 10 of those hamburgers just sat under the heat lamp till they had to chuck them.
That's right, till they turned
no one
into
ever
stone.
Right.
So how does a business making these incredibly uneven statistics work and become profitable? Why was this horrific ratio the reality back then? And the answer to all these questions is radio and distribution. Radio was such a powerful promotional tool that it literally influenced, and make no mistake about it, it's a promotional tool. Radio is marketing. And radio for us artists, and we're all artists here, radio for us artists is where we found the lifeblood of and the purpose in our lives, right? So it means so much more than advertising, but it is advertising, and it influenced our buying decision. That is also advertising, as well as much as we love that advertising, it is advertising and
oh yeah, the radio
marketing.
single is the commercial to go buy the record.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the commercial says come to our store and buy this record from this artist.
Exactly. Exactly. And
it's a trailer for a movie.
Yep, and the exactly, and the idea of a commercial, the idea of marketing is to influence buying decisions. That's why we're doing this, and we're trying to get people out there. But it was so powerful that it influenced enough consumer minds to purchase 600 million units from the Beatles, 300 million units from Madonna, 230 million units from Rihanna. I didn't know she sold that much. That's insane. Wow. I got these off of RIA, and 100 million from Jay-Z, etc. But this is when people were listening to the radio, right? This is back in the day when they're listening. But even in the best days of radio was restrictive. And I don't mean restrictive because you got to know the right people, because it was restrictive in that way, right? And I don't mean restrictive as in cost prohibitive, because it costs $350,000 to $500,000 to promote a P1 radio single, which is, a major market radio single, right? Because that's also restrictive and prohibitive.
Pretty much, yeah.
But let's assume that you've got all that locked up and you've got no worries. It's still extremely restrictive, because there's only 12 spins an hour roughly. That results, if you multiply that times 24 hours times 7 days, that's 2,016 spins a week. And a song in heavy rotation accounts for around 70 spins per week. So that's about, if you do the math, and that's about once every 2 hours, okay, that they're spinning a song. So medium rotation was about 40 spins a week, and light rotation somewhere between 15 to 25 spins per week. So when all the dust settles, this left about maybe 3 spins per week to quote unquote test out a new song that the stations would consider adding to a rotation. Now, let's say that you're on a record deal, and let's say that your label loves the single, and they want to put the promo money behind it. They're going to open up the purse strings and shell out $500,000 and make a play at this and try to get you into the top 50. Okay? And let's also say that radio loves it. Radio's like, we love this song. We want to add it to the rotation. But if we talk about mathematics, knock, knock, knock.
Knock, knock.
Hello?
Yeah.
Who's that? That's math. That's math knocking at the door. And physics, the law of physics. When everybody says yes, there's something that absolutely must happen before any new song can be added to a rotation. And what is that?
Song's got to come off.
Somebody's got to come off. Somebody's riding.
It's like King of the Hill.
Yeah. So somebody else's song must be dropped from rotation to make space for a new one. So that's what I mean by restrictive. It's mathematically limited. Radio was powerful, but there wasn't enough time in the day to spin all the songs from all the artists on all the labels, so only 10% were able to grow their audience and thrive. Now today, the stations are failing. They're losing money. The future of radio is seriously in jeopardy. I don't know what's going to happen to it. I don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, I don't think it's going to go away, but I don't know. I mean, right now, think about this. Like on country radio, I've heard in several different circles that we're down to spinning, and this is sickening. Remember I said there's 2,016 spins a week? We're spinning 25 songs on country radio a week.
Wow.
2,016 times. I mean, wow, right?
Like,
wow.
How do you even get in the top 40 if they only spend 25?
Wow, and you're going to edge out. So you're going to beat out Keith Urban and Carrie Underwood and Tim McGraw and all the big names. But we don't need radio. Number one, I mean, it's awesome to be on radio, and eventually you'll get on radio, but you don't need it in the beginning because guess what? It's not going to break you, right? For all intents and purposes, radio isn't going to be around to help you. So to drop that part of your dream right now. It's not going to happen right now, and it shouldn't happen right now, and you darn sure shouldn't spend the money to do it right now. We don't need to ask anybody's permission, to make our art. I mean, with radio, you need the permission from them. You need the permission from a record label that has that kind of money. And when you consider the fact that 2 out of the big 3 corporations that own all the major market stations are either out of the radio business or about to be, that's just, you can't argue with that. You can't argue with the numbers. So we don't need permission to make our art. We don't need anybody's permission to create and connect with future fans or to distribute our music. We can do all that from our laptop and from our couch. I mean, how crazy is that if we're thinking about, the right things? But so many people have the dream, Brent, of getting a record deal, and they don't want to let it go.
Right.
And why do you have that dream now?
We've talked about a lot, and I think this is maybe where you're going is because that's what their heroes did. That's how they discovered their heroes. Yeah. That's what they saw growing up. It was good enough for granddaddy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, hey, you get to tell your family you got a record deal if you get one, but that record deal in $2.51 is going to get you, a cup of regular drip coffee at Starbucks. I mean, right? It's when everything was working perfectly, which it isn't now, but when it was, your dream had a 90% failure rate. And do you have any idea, Brent? You probably know a handful. I know I can name 4 or 5 off the top of my head right now, but how many killer artists, really amazing artists that I personally know who paid good money, 6 figures, right? $100,000 plus to get out of their record deal?
Well, I don't know any that had enough money to do that, but I do know some people that got out of their record deals.
Yeah, I mean, they got out, well, one way or the other, somebody paid for it,
Right, yeah.
Most artists aspire to be signed because it symbolizes a formally necessary step to making a living in music and a formally, absolutely mission-critical step to finding your audience and growing your audience. A record deal implied success, even though the opposite was true for 90% of the artists on the label's roster. And most artists don't know how to do it without a label, so they feel the label's the only answer, which makes sense, right?
Right.
I'm not, for the record here, I'm not saying that a record label is a bad idea. I'm saying that for most artists it is, if they don't have an audience, It's only a good idea for the savvy artists who know how to position themselves in today's music business. I mean, there was certainly a lot less expected of an artist in terms of marketing back in the day because the label did so much work for you. But it also meant that the artist had little control over their careers. The label and radio, terrestrial radio, decided if they're going to make you or break you. Some of that was based on some really crappy information on one spin at 3:00 in the morning on Sunday. Right? It just didn't test well. Like what?
Right? Yeah.
Neither did Guns N' Roses for the first full freaking year that it was out, and then it tested really well and turned out to be one of the biggest freaking bands ever. So I mean, that information and the value of that, the accuracy of that is questionable at best, right? But today, there's a lot more of expected of you that's in the beginning, which sucks because you got to learn how to do it, but you can stack the deck in your favor. You can come into a contractual negotiation with power as opposed to nibbling on whatever crumbs they decide to throw at you. I mean, if you guys follow my articles online, you know we've talked about him on the podcast too. Granger Smith created, AKA Earl Dibbles Jr., created a $1.8 million empire from his laptop. All the labels wanted to sign him, and the artist and his team kept saying no until they said yes to Broken Bow Records. And at the moment that he did that, because they said no for a few years, and that just increased his power and increased, he became a bigger and bigger trophy on Music Row. Who was going to be the one that was going to win him over and get the deal? Because he's got cash flow.
Right. He's got the audience. He's
got an audience.
He's proven.
Yeah. And so he got his own imprint called Wheelhouse Records. And when you get your own imprint under an umbrella, you're going to get a better split, than that. And depending on how much strength you have in there, you could also have the possibility of being able to participate in the revenue from other artists that are signed on that imprint. Right? I'm not saying that's what he has, but I'm saying that's what having your own imprint means. I'm quite sure that Granger negotiated some stipulations in that deal that would also make sure that he had all the money that he needed from the label and the infrastructure necessary to accomplish his next goal, which is probably one of the main reasons he signed with the label at this point, because he was making plenty of money. Like, I need a number one. I need that. That's got to knock that off the bucket list, right?
Right, yeah.
So he had the power to do that because they wanted his business so badly. And he made himself sexy to the labels. And it was about his business. It wasn't about the art.
Right.
But because it wasn't about the art to them, think about what that means. Like, he got to do what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because he found the audience.
Right. He proved it.
Right? I don't have to go through the homogenized filter of radio as it syncs. All the songs starting to sound the same. All that's predictable in the way this is happening. I can be whoever I want to be and have the artistic freedom I need to have. You come in with an audience, nobody's going to argue with you.
Right.
Nobody's going to say, well, listen, all that's great. You're making $1.8 million a year. That's fantastic. But listen, we want you to do this song over here because this is testing better. No, there's not going to mess with you, So that's what I'm saying. Don't let that upset you. It's about the business for them, but it's all about the art for him. He's doing what he wants to do and the way that he wants to do it. And I think that too many of you fail to understand that it's always been about the business for them, not your potential, but your business. What kind of money are you going to bring in? So my question to you is this. What happened to all the artists with a ton of talent, but no audience that were on Broken Bow the second Granger Smith signed his deal?
They bumped down a spot.
Yeah.
In the batting order.
They got put on ice. Yeah. I mean, he got all the capital resources, which are limited at every record label, right? They're broke, man. They don't have a lot of money. And all the human resources, he got everybody on board with him because they're full force into making sure they got this trophy. They're going to take him to number one. They got something to prove, don't they? And that's a company-wide thing. And let me tell you something. I mean, back in the day, in the heyday of the record industry, how many bands lost their deal or just got shelved because there was one dude, an A&R guy that signed him, who believed in him, who loved him. They got their deal, and then 8 months later, that dude bounces to another label, and they don't have anybody else at the label that liked them. No more champions. So they're done.
Yeah.
And here, the whole company's behind it. Okay? So, you're gonna wait if you don't have an audience, and that's not what you want. I mean, is that a risk that you're willing to take just so you can brag to your friends and your family about having a record deal? Is just sitting there, still working a regular job, having a record deal, having all kinds of legal restrictions on what you can and can't do because they want to do it their way, and their way right now is nothing.
Right.
So having a record deal today is incredibly different than it was 20 years ago when your heroes got signed. And needing a record deal to reach your audience has also completely changed in today's music business. So I promise you guys that there's going to be a truckload of artists in the very near future who are just as savvy as Granger Smith, which are going to make it increasingly difficult for the talented artists with no audience on any given label. And I mean, that is the unicorn now. Does it still happen? Yes, it still happens. Artists still get signed based on their talent. But I mean, more and more, when they start bringing in artists that have cash flow, that have traffic, that have an audience, then they have to put their attention there. That's just...
It's the safe bet.
Yeah, it's the safe bet. So you're going to wait. So even if you get the one unicorn, you're entering into this other, you're putting yourself in this position that's just ridiculous. Like it's just almost impossible to win. I mean, it's just a crazy business plan, you know? So which artist do you want to be? Do you want to be like Granger, who comes in with all the power and can craft your deal into a blessing? Or do you want to be the artist with these amazing musical gifts whose record deal quickly became a curse? And the difference between the two of those is the size of your audience. You know, the size of your audience is going to determine your future and how the bigwigs are going to play with you in the sandbox. And the super cool part is that you get to choose which artist you want to be. You have control. You know, by not marketing, by not learning to market, or by not entertaining different ways of approaching marketing, you're choosing the former. You're choosing to roll the dice and hope all the planets align in your favor. You're choosing to suffer, but if you're choosing to suffer through learning the crap you don't want to learn about marketing right now, which means you'll be more educated tomorrow, it means you won't be naive. It means you'll be driving. It also means you'll be sexy for the right reasons. And it also means that nobody gets to tell you how to make your art. So there's that. I mean,
which is nice.
We just lost Glenn Campbell. I think about, there's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be where the lights are shining on me like a rhinestone cowboy. I mean, that is such a this song is all about the music business. And that's it, a load of compromising. You got to make everybody happy, but not when you come in with a cash flow, you know? I mean.
And also, I think another thing, too, is if you build in your audience, it prepares you for success because you're not working in the laboratory, creating this product, this brand, everything. No one's heard it yet, and I'm going to present it and hope everyone loves it. Yeah. Because I was listening to an interview with Seth Godin, marketer. You know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
So he was saying the basketball is about as perfect of a basketball as a basketball could be.
Yeah.
But when it first came out, it was not a very good basketball.
Yeah.
And so, but over time, you get all these people using it. You get all this feedback from players and coaches, and and it just iterates and iterates and iterates. Meaning it improves, it evolves. They get it better and better and better, and they're just dialing it in until now we have this perfect basketball. He said, if they had just kept it in the lab and worked on it to perfect it, and they introduced it today, it would suck. It would not be nearly as good as the basketball we have. Yep. Because it's been out. And then, of course, there would also be no NBA.
Yeah, we wouldn't have the sport.
There would be a sport. And that's kind of like your music. In a way, if you're just aiming at the label, you're like the guys just trying to keep making a better basketball without ever letting people go out and play and get that feedback. What does an audience do with this? How do they respond to it? I'm finding my sound. I'm finding what works for me. I'm finding what doesn't work for me. I'm finding what my people respond to and what they don't respond to. Instead, you're in the lab. It finally comes out. They put that $500,000 in there, and you find out, it didn't really work.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as good of a basketball if you've been out there playing, getting it on the market, getting in front of a few people, and then you respond, and you get better, and then you get in front of more and more people, and then, you got a sport. So, anyway.
And that's validation. When you got real people that are downloading your song and telling you, this is incredible, you're the greatest singer, when you become online the artist that everybody loves, and that's real validation, and then turning that into money is another trick, okay? But that's an audience. That is far more important than having a middleman with all kinds of other agendas at this stage of the game say that. I mean, you really, really do want to be in a place where you incubate yourself, So if your dream is really... If that's the goal, is and you're working towards getting a record deal, then you need to work towards it the right way. I mean, my dream for every one of my artists on Daredevil is that we incubate them to the point where they're getting offers for record deals, and they're conflicted about it. The artists are
Right.
like, man, is this the right thing to do? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, and because when you mean incubate, you don't mean hidden away where nobody, you're just in the studio and you're incubating the sound. You're not talking about that. You're talking about incubate, but out in public. You're showing your work. You're growing. You're interacting with
growing
fans.
the audience. Yeah, like growing them to the point where they're growing up. They're turning into like an adolescent artist rather than a baby band kind of a thing. And they've got multiple singles out. They have hopefully a big audience, a big enough audience to be sexy, to be discoverable. Yeah, I mean, Bailey James, I talk about her a lot, but she's had her 8th. She's 14 years old. She's had her 8th major at bat with a nationally televised talent show or TV show. They found her. She's discoverable because of the work that she's been doing. So she's had a lot of different opportunities to take. I'm going to rephrase that. She's created a lot of different opportunities for herself to reach a larger audience, and we're hoping we're going to get some news here in the next 4 weeks on one of these. But she's had 8. She'll have more. I mean, because her audience is where it is right now, and that's just solid work. So I just want you guys to win. I want you to focus on what's really important. What's really important to the industry, if you want that deal, is how big your audience is. And that's where the real validation is too, which is why you want the record deal, right? But when they're there and when you're putting up posts on Instagram and you're getting 1,500 likes and 150 comments because people love the new song you just came out with and stuff, that's worth way more than anything a record executive's going to tell you. So that's all I got to say about that right there.
It's good stuff, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, brother. So,
I like it.
So listen, this is the way we're thinking about stuff at Daredevil here. We do want you to become the artist that everybody loves. That's what we're here to help you become, the artist that everybody loves. And if you want some inside info on that, sometimes a personal touch is all that it takes. Reach out at info@daredevilproduction.com. Once again, it's info@daredevilproduction.com, and production is singular. There is no S. And I'm available for consulting. We'll take a look at all your social media. We'll take a look at your YouTube channel. We'll take a look at your website, your web store, if you have one. If you don't, shame on you. Get one. And we'll give you some really, really good information. We do charge for that, but it's well worth what we charge. You'd be amazed at what we can get done in less than 2 hours. So get in touch with us there. Keep on sharing this stuff. It's really working. I mean, everybody that listens to a couple of these episodes ends up listening to a bunch more, and that means it's creating value, and that we're reaching more people. So we're totally stoked about that. We want you to win. That's why we're here. We want you to keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.